Well, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Lubna Najjar. I am the CEO of Ilmoda Brand Development and the president of the Columbus Fashion Council, and a huge fan and stakeholder of Dress for Success. I am so honored to be your host today as we shatter the glass ceiling and interview powerful women, sheroes around our city and our community that have dominated male-dominated fields. And so today, our special guest is Assistant Chief Tracy Smith. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our viewers and our audience are really going to enjoy learning from you today. And just the brief intro we had before this was really dynamic. So thank you for taking the time. I know that you're busy protecting our city and our community, and so we're not going to keep you too long. But we're so honored to have you. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to the role that you're in. What really inspired you, what age you were when you decided that this is the career you wanted to follow.
Well, I originally started out, obviously, just like most women, and going through school and looking to go to college. And I played athletics in school and took on that traditional field of, I've got into banking. I worked in banking and did business. For a long period of time, I worked for Chase Bank. At the time was Bank One. And my field was large equipment leasing. So I had a business background, white collar business background, appraised aircraft, construction equipment, things like that, but it was mostly in a financial background. I had a few individual friends of mine that were on the fire department that actually broke that glass ceiling and got into the fire department and talked me into doing it. And at the time I was, Lubna, I was 31 when I finally got in that field. I've already established a career and had been with that other organization for like 16, 17 years. And then said, that's not what I enjoy. I do it every day, but I don't enjoy doing it every day. Then I was lucky enough to test through the Civil Service Commission here in Columbus and was selected to be in the fire department. And I've been here now 22 and a half years. I've worked with great individuals here that have molded me to be who I am in the leadership position I'm in now. And it's not like I've ever worked a day in my life. I love coming to work every single day.
And who would you say is probably maybe a person or a moment in time that really inspired you to be here? I mean, was it somebody maybe you read about, or maybe a role model you may have had in your life that you said, wow, what a shero, or maybe it was a hero, right? What was that pivotal moment for you that really kind of, you woke up the next day and you said, this is for me?
Well, I'm a product of a school bus driver and a police officer. So my family has had a background in public safety and or service to the community in one form or fashion. And when I took that, I hate to say for that term, but that white collar job for me, I thought I was taking the right direction. So I think that my parents instilled in me that there's more to the world than a paycheck. It's being able to be inspiring to other people and being a servant to your surrounding community. So probably my parents have guided me in that direction. And then there's been several women on our department that has led me into this field now. My daughter went to college and she is now a Hilliard police officer. So she is moving in that same direction with Hilliard as being another woman that's shattering glass ceilings as well, serving the public. So that's a transition that I made, that there really wasn't one individual. And now that I'm with the department, there's just so many great leaders and women and men in the department that have guided me in this direction.
That's amazing. Well, before I get into some of the other questions, it's so wonderful to hear your daughter's a police officer. I know it's a tough time to be in public service in general, but within Central Ohio, I know that it's one of the most dynamic careers you can really have, especially as a female. But what's one thing would you say? I mean, obviously you're in a leadership position now. What's one thing would you say your coworkers or the other the team members you directly work with don't know about you?
Some of the coworkers I know do it. I just turned a bodybuilding professional. I just got my pro card here since July during the COVID pandemic. So I've been working for that for 4 years. So It's probably not something that I need to show pictures of because my coworkers have seen me in the outfit that I have to wear. But it is one thing that I think that this profession and the drive and determination was successful in that for me as well.
That's incredible. And I know that takes quite a bit. I have a lot of friends that are kind of doing that pro route. And so it takes a lot out of you, right? It's your lifestyle personally. It's your food, it's your sleep, it's your water, it's your energy, right? So it's kind of taken over a lot of that. It takes real discipline.
And I've had, like I said, I've worked with some great people and they've been supportive along this whole route. So they, for lack of a better term, support me in the food choices that I make and keep me away from the food choices I shouldn't make. So
after this call, you're going to send us a list of all the things you're doing so that we can be like you and get super fit and get our personal pro card.
There you go. I can help with that.
I love it. So something I think that would be really interesting to hear about is, obviously working in as a civil servant, fire, police, anything within that protection space. Is it a merit-based or is it how do you kind of get to that assistant chief level? Is it a test taking? Is it time on the department? How does that work? And how did you mobilize in that way?
So it is time on the department. It's kind of a successive process. So for me, I became a paramedic as well in the division. So I was hired, I became a paramedic. And that's our biggest role for our community is EMS. So I wanted to be a part of that system and support that. And then after a certain period of time, which is like 5 years or so, you can take a civil service exam, which is a multi-phased exam to see where your knowledge base is at and how you can, from our perspective here in the division, tactically perform doing that job out in the field. I did that in like the 5th or 6th year of me being on the department and was promoted to a lieutenant. And then each rank thereafter is the same type of process. You have to study for it. You have to be good at what you do so that you can actually take that exam part of it and actually apply it to your real job. So I've been lucky that I've waited in between to make sure that I had a good skill base before I took the next promotional. But if you look at my time frame on the department of only 22 years, I'm in a great position for our division that I was selected by the safety director and the fire chief to be in the assistant chief's position. Because I recently just got promoted to deputy chief, which it has different rank based, and then it's selection process for the assistant chief. So there's multi phases. I've taken like 4 tests now to get to this point in my career.
That's excellent. And then did you know when you joined the department that you would want to follow that rank, or did you just say, I know you shared with us a little bit earlier why you got into it, but did you always know you wanted to do this? And because really, isn't it that you could really stay a firefighter on, that whichever level you come in at, or I don't know exactly what the ranks are called, but you have to choose to go up, right?
Yes. So I could have been a firefighter for the rest of my career. And we have some fantastic people that have literally spent 33 years on this department and been a firefighter, been in that supportive role. Yeah. I didn't know exactly what direction I wanted to take and how far I wanted to go up in the ranks. But my nickname in the academy was Chief. So apparently somebody saw something in me to give me a nickname in the academy when you're probationary to see what my career is going to go. But I do think at some certain time that I wanted to make sure that I was in a leadership role so that I could be there to support and drive home messages and the way that I want our city to look and our department to run.
That's amazing. And did you feel like maybe at any time in your career that it was challenging to aspire to get to that level as a female? Or was it the same as anybody else in the department?
I do think that initially when you first come on to any role that's a non-traditional and it's male dominated field, you and yourself take on that role that I have to be bigger, better, and badder than everybody else and the men that you're with. But I think my perspective has always been, I want to prove to them that no matter what gender it is, I will be there and be able to accomplish the same thing that you have. So I don't need different standards. I'll get myself into a position that I can function and you can trust me that I'm going to be just as good as you are. So I think that you just have to take on that. So the initial challenge is you're a woman and you need help and I don't need help. And then as you gain the respect in the department, then people really realize and see that, you really don't need my help. You really want to be a part of this team. And then I think that duly you get that respect as you continue on. I think right now, I've been blessed enough to stay in emergency services. There's multiple bureaus in our department, and that's the biggest department that oversees everybody that's on the street that you see every day in those red fire trucks. I love that because I think I have an influential leadership that can help those people drive what their messages are to our administrative staff. So I like to stay engaged in that. So I like to be their voice now.
That's excellent. And what's your, when you said that, along your way, you kind of have to know you're big and bad the whole time. So what's your go-to confidence booster? Like, what's something, do you give yourself positive affirmations every morning? Do you just wake up a badass? Like, how do you just go about your Chief Smith aura to keep going?
I don't know if I really have one, if I really thought about that, but I just think that, I just know that I can achieve anything I put my mind to. And I think that everybody will find that they struggle or fear something. And that you just know that you'll find a way that's best fitting for you to accomplish what you need to do. So taking trust in yourself is my biggest, I guess, way to fight confidence and just be confident about what I'm doing every day.
Is there a mentor or somebody that once you got into the field you could turn to and say, am I doing this right? What's the path of least resistance to get here? Did you have somebody or a group of people? I know you said that the others within the department have really been very supportive of your path, and that's so wonderful. Is there a mentor, whether formal or informal, that kind of helped guide you to the point you're at now?
I think there are some women on the department that have been that initial role model. So, when I came on to the department, there were certain women on the department. Donna Billingham was one of them. She became a captain already. She was a rescue tech. She had proven herself to be that individual that had broken the glass ceilings before I came there. And just her being a role model, being in those positions, was a mentor for me. But for the most part, just having the people around you that support you and actually understand that you can do the same level of work and that trust you, because obviously they have to entrust me with their lives every day, being on their team. Having that trust is pretty much the biggest thing that you need.
And you said you were 31, right? When you switched fields, you were in banking.
Correct.
and you went into, so was that terrifying? Were you just nervous? Was it hard to make that change, and not just within yourself, but kind of the people around you? And did they understand your change?
I don't necessarily think they understood. I don't think my parents understood the change because, you were making great money and you're in a field that you can be successful, and you're already, in the middle of your 30s and you think you already have a career path. But I don't think I was ever fearful on switching it. I think that at the time that I made that decision to go to it and had gotten to the point where they offered me the job to do it, I think I mentally and physically was ready to go. I think I really wanted a challenge. And then I really wanted to be successful in something that I wanted to do every day, that I really felt was, for lack of a better term, my calling, that it didn't feel like a job, that I really enjoyed everything that I did every day.
That's amazing. I know right now with the pandemic, a lot of people, men and women, have been forced to switch gears, and to make big decisions, and maybe whether it's a career change, career change, also working from home. And so there's a lot of fear with this type of decision making. Back to the pandemic for a second, how has that changed? Obviously you've been on the force for a while now, but how has it changed being a firefighter? I know you're not necessarily in the street anymore, but what does that look like now? You're protecting, but have to still protect yourself while you're protecting the public. So is that something that would you say that within the department, you guys kind of made that change pretty quickly and adapted quickly, or have you always been ready for a pandemic?
I think this is a once in a lifetime event that has occurred. And I don't think we lived through civil unrest and the pandemic at the same time. And the challenges I think that we have weren't necessarily on the street because we've dealt with weird diseases and things like that before. And I think we're prepared for those. But I don't think we were prepared for the number of people that were going through depression and taking their own lives, which is so unfortunate because of their fear of what was going on.
Right.
I think mentally our people have had to switch gears in how to deal with the people in the public because of their fears. But living in here, since we live with each other for 24 hours at a given time, we had to adjust the way that we were doing business because we literally live as a family in a station, and we had to learn how to, instead of being together and eating dinner close together and sitting and watching TV and joking around, now we had to learn to separate each other for like 6 foot apart and be protected, and everybody sprayed Clorox on each other. So I think that was a challenge to take that family kind of life away and say, you guys have to separate each other. So I think they've gone through some mental and physical challenges, but overall, we were able to adapt pretty quickly. We really didn't skip too much of a beat after we got through everybody getting sick and then adjusting.
So that, I mean, you were kind of forced to make the change quickly because you're the strong one for us, right? I think the general public is kind of looking to people like you to say, how do I survive this? And, I know asking for help is really hard. So I guess for our women who might be struggling with something or maybe feeling down on themselves and, feel like, obviously mental health has been a really big problem for many, many years, but specifically in these last 12 months, what would you say to a woman struggling, not just in her career, but personally? If somebody came to you and said, I'm really not good right now, what would you say to her to kind of uplift and kind of bring her back on both feet?
I think the biggest driver, Lubna, is that change is good. So there's positive things that come out of change, and change shouldn't be feared at all. The reason that we have change is because something's not going well initially. So the direction may be a pandemic, but what's great coming out of the pandemic is, do we really need everybody working in an office space, and can we do it by WebEx? And the negatives of it are we're socially not together, and we're social entities that we need to be together with one another. But that change of that is, how do we redirect ourselves? We'll do WebExes, and I can look at you and talk to you still, and we can still have an interaction and not be locked up away. But I think most women should realize that there's going to be challenges and there's going to be some heartache and some fear. But really, if you look at it from a positive perspective, there's probably a reason that change needs to happen. And there's going to be a good turn that comes out of that change, whether it's a new job, a new way of doing something, or something that you never thought that you would ever try to encounter, and now you're taking it on.
I would love to hear a little bit more about, your advice for the young person. How does she, whether she went to undergrad and then, went into sort of the traditional route of professional life, or maybe she's, 18 years old, mom and dad want her out of the house, go live your life. Like, what does she do? What are some little nuggets that you would give her at that stage? And then I'll kind of ask you about the other stages as well.
Well, I do think that, let's start with an 18-year-old that's trying to make a career path or figure out. But I think the biggest thing that was a takeaway from me, and I won't say that the time that I had in a different job was a waste of time, because I learned a great deal from that. But I really would love for somebody to take in their initial stages, really to sit back and reflect on themselves and look interior into yourself and say, what do I want to do with my life? What direction do I really want to go, and what makes me happy? And then make your decision on where it's going to be. And I'm all for education, but not everybody wants to be in education. They may want to be a hairdresser, they may want to be a firefighter. And do I need an education to do that? Or can I really just throw my heart and soul into that profession and just be fantastic at that profession? So I think looking inside yourself to find out, where do I really want to be in life and what will make me happy as an individual, then that's the path they need to take. So for a woman that's 18 that doesn't know, the internet's awesome. Look out there and find out what jobs are there. Like, what do I want to be? Do I want to be an artist? Do I want to, be a metal worker? Or do I want to be a construction worker? Do I want to be a nurse? And then go with that path. I think that whatever you choose to do that makes you happy and you want to be there every single day is probably more worth than just dollar bills in your pocket.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's great advice. It's finding the resources, being resourceful is finding what is out there that you might enjoy. So she's 31 now, Maybe she had a couple different odd jobs throughout her time. Maybe she had a couple of setbacks. Maybe she had some problems in the legal system, whatever it is, but she's getting back on her feet. She's got to make some change. You told her not to fear the change because change is good. But where is she at 31? She's making a big change in her life and she wants to do better because maybe she has one or two children. She's probably doing it on her own. Where does she go now?
I think just staying on that positive. So where you tell an 18-year-old to go away from fear and take your path and pick what you want and be excited about it. This 31-year-old with a couple kids may need to say, well, I'm going to have to go back to school, or I might have to go ahead and pick a job that I need to do until I find the job and get myself in a position that I can find exactly what I want to do. I think staying positive, Lubna, and understanding that there is an ability once you find the path and seek out that path of, I've got to do this for my kids and my financial state for now, but it doesn't mean that I can't still work towards a goal or a dream that I have. So if I got to go back to school to do it, and I got to work at McDonald's to do it so that my kids eat and I have some apartment to stay in, then that's what you do. But you got to keep that dream alive, saying that I want to go do this in a year or two from now, just trying to keep that positive steps towards that until you get to that point.
And then at what point do you ask for help? I mean, are you asking for help the whole way, or are you, maybe she did that, she's trying to stay positive, she's maybe gone to an organization like Dress for Success, or she's gone to some of those free community resources that are out there. At what point does she say, I can't do it alone?
You can say that right up front, Lubna. I mean, I think that there's no shame in asking that for somebody to help to get direction. Right. Like you said, for your organization that provides them with opportunities, not just for, dressing for success, but giving them the guidelines and the path to do that, or giving them names and resources on how to get to that path. I think reaching out and asking somebody for that is not bad. For somebody that might be watching or listening to you or reaching out to Dress for Success for conversation is, maybe they say, I'd love to be a firefighter, but I'm too old or too whatever. Like, hey, I can reach out to Tracy and you can give her a call and have a conversation. And I think just getting that support system behind you to say that I'm not fearful to ask anybody for help to do it, reach out and ask for help, and they just guide you in the right direction. Then you get your feet back underneath you and then you can take off.
Okay, so now she's 45. She's maybe more established in a job. Maybe it didn't become a career per se, but she's loving what she's doing. Her kids are growing up, and now she's maybe focusing more on herself. How, what's the piece of advice you may give her as you got into bodybuilding and she's getting your pro card and you're established in your field? What's something that, what's something you would tell her to kind of not just boost her morale, but also to get her interested in something outside of just work and, okay, my kids are grown up, now I got to think about myself. What's one piece of advice you can give her here?
Well, I'll have to say that I'm probably in that same focus because I focus a lot on work and then I focus a lot on, the one thing that I'm involved in now with is the bodybuilding. But I myself had to make sure that I reach out and get with friends, and I have to reach out to other people to find what other avenues do I need to go out and search and see that I haven't experienced before. So I love to travel and I don't make time to travel. So I'm pretty much in the same position that you're asking me to give advice for is right. How do I get out there in the big scheme of things and get more seen? So it's just giving yourself, I guess, the permission to go be available. So I don't have kids. I've got an established career. Now get out of the rut and make yourself available. And so I'm in that same position that I've got to figure out how to make myself more available for personal and fun things to do.
What is your recommendation for women that are really struggling to move up and be at the same level as their male counterparts?
So I will say that we're looking, at least I'm trying to look with some multiple partners of women that have progressed in the fire field. Mindy Gabriel, that's now deputy chief in Westerville. We have women that are now promoting into great positions and they haven't had that opportunity, and there's very few of them in Central Ohio. So we're actually looking at creating a women's group that allows them to have just an outlet to talk to in a free environment that's not, for lack of a chain of command, and we're a paramilitary organization where you're free to ask questions and how do you manage people and how do you deal with the men in a certain particular instance, or how do you deal with EEO issues? So we're looking to develop that. But for anybody else's perspectives that's looking to try to get into that field, we'd like to be that mentor and that outlet for them so that they can ask really pertinent questions that maybe they're not going to get in a recruitment field flyer that they're going to get on the side of a wall, that they're actually get real time answers to their questions. Like, how do you manage carrying your food? How do you dress? How do you, what do you do at work? How do you deal with your spouse? When you're living with a man for 24 hours, how do you deal with relationships? So I think us trying to be that outlet for you in a non-traditional role for those women that have those questions, then I think that we would love to be an outlet for you to do that.
That is an incredible opportunity. And I think exactly what we're looking for. Because like you said, it's not just in fire. It's not just in police, but women have different obstacles. We have different battles to fight. If you think about COVID, women are opting out of the workforce left and right because we have different obstacles. That's really inspiring to hear that's what you're doing at the department.
Hearing your story and how you really shifted gears. To be honest with you told us about the one time you shifted gears, but I'm sure you've had to shift quite a few times within your respective career. And I think that piece is what helps women kind of keep going. They always say, as soon as you're ready to quit, if it gets really hard, that's the moment you should push a little further, because that's when you're really going to reach that goal. And so I think you are a walking, breathing example of that.
I appreciate Ray Lee reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of it. I feel extremely honored that you guys would even want to reach out to me and talk about it, just not because it's the position that I hold, but just being a part of successful women that you guys are honoring and helping along the way. I think that the city needs that. And I think other individuals need to see that there are women that are doing phenomenal things for this city, and you're promoting that. And I think it's a great opportunity for me to share my story, but also I just, again, just honored that you would even consider reaching out to me and talking to me.
It was so awesome. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Stephanie, for having both myself and Tracy.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.